Get out of my house, you ungrateful black rat. Claudia's voice sliced through the still air of the marble foyer like a blade. Her words, dipped in contempt and hatred, rang out with such force that the house itself seemed to flinch. Maya Williams stood frozen, breath catching in her throat. The sting of the insult hit her harder than the cold slap that would follow moments later. Just 3 days ago, they were seated in the mahogany-paneled study for the reading of her father's will. Claudia had sat in her designer dress, legs crossed, lips pursed with faux elegance. Vanessa, her daughter, mirrored her posture, the perfect picture of privilege. Maya had sat alone, fingers trembling. She had braced herself for disappointment. Instead, she inherited everything. The estate, the company, the accounts, over $50 million worth of legacy. Claudia's mask cracked the moment the lawyer read her name. Her smile vanished. Her knuckles turned white as she gripped the arm of the chair. Vanessa gasped. But Claudia seethed in silence. Not a tear, not a protest, just that terrifying, quiet fury. And now, here in the foyer, that fury had erupted like a volcano. You think this is yours? Claudia shrieked, marching down the staircase in her heels like a woman possessed. You think my husband, my Gerald, meant for a bastard child to walk away with our life? Maya backed away instinctively, bumping into the bottom step. He left it to me, Claudia. It's in the will. It's legal. You little thief, Claudia screamed, and before Maya could react, a backhand slap cracked across her cheek. Maya stumbled, the suitcase slipping from her grip. Vanessa watched from the landing, arms crossed, expression unreadable. I fed you. I let you into this house. And this is how you repay me? Claudia snarled, grabbing Maya by the arm. Her manicured nails dug into Maya's skin as she yanked her toward the corridor. Let go of me, Maya cried, trying to pull free. I'll leave. I'll go. I don't want anything from you. Claudia laughed coldly. Oh, it's too late for that. You're not leaving until you give us what we deserve. She dragged Maya down the hall like she was a piece of garbage. They passed the family portraits. Claudia had already begun replacing Maya's father's pictures with her own. The door to the guest wing slammed open. Claudia shoved Maya inside one of the old guest bedrooms. Welcome to your new life, she spat. No phone, no food, no friends. Not until you sign those papers. The door slammed shut and locked with a heavy click. The first night was cold. The second was colder. On the third, Claudia returned with papers in hand and a cruel smile on her face. You look worse than I expected, she said, eyeing Maya's pale, tear-streaked face. A shame, really. I thought you'd last longer. I'm not signing anything, Maya whispered. Her lips were cracked, her voice barely audible. Claudia's response was swift. She grabbed Maya by the hair and yanked her head back. You little ghetto parasite. I should have thrown you back to whatever rat hole your mother came from. Tears stung Maya's eyes. She tried to crawl back, but Claudia kicked her hard in the ribs. Maya gasped, folding into herself, choking on pain and shame. That night, Maya curled up on the bare carpet, holding her side, too weak to cry. The bruises on her arms bloomed deep purple. Her body trembled with hunger. Her spirit shattered. When Vanessa entered quietly the next morning to toss her a bottle of water, Maya crawled for it like a starving animal. You don't belong here, Vanessa said softly. You never did. Maya didn't reply. Her voice had left her. By day 5, she was barely conscious. When the door slammed open again, she expected Claudia with another slap or another demand. Instead, she heard it. A sudden bang from the front of the house, followed by fast, heavy footsteps. They echoed like thunder down the marble hallway. Vanessa screamed something unintelligible. Claudia shouted, "Who the hell do you think you are?" The footsteps approached fast. A crash, wood splintering. The door to Maya's prison shuddered. One final crack, and it flew open. And there he stood, tall, commanding, in a storm-gray suit drenched with rain, his eyes fierce with fury. Adrian Cole. He stepped inside and took in the sight. Maya on the floor, shivering, bruised, barely able to lift her head. Then he looked at Claudia. Touch my wife again, and you'll regret it. Maya blinked. Wife? Claudia sputtered. She's not your this is my house. She's mentally unstable. This is trespassing. Adrian ignored her. He walked straight to Maya and dropped to one knee. Maya, he said gently. It's me, Adrian. She stared at him through swollen eyes, lips trembling. Who are you? You don't remember, he whispered. That's okay. You've been hurt. I'm taking you away from here. No, you're not, Claudia snapped. She's staying until she signs what's ours. Adrian stood slowly. What she signs or doesn't sign isn't your concern anymore. Ma, Claudia barked. Vanessa, call the police. Adrian reached into his coat and pulled out a folder. Here's our marriage certificate. Dated. Signed. Legal. Claudia hurled herself toward him. Get out. You have no right to. Vanessa rushed forward too, grabbing Maya by the arm and yanking her backward. She's staying here, Maya cried out as her already injured shoulder jolted painfully. Adrian moved before Maya could blink. He shoved Claudia back with one hand. The woman tumbled to the floor in a graceless heap of designer silk. Vanessa lunged again. Adrian intercepted her, pushing her aside with controlled force. She stumbled backward, crashing into the door frame, gasping. Touch her again, Adrian said, voice cold as winter steel, and I'll make sure both of you regret it. Maya's world spun. Her ribs ached, her arm throbbed, her face stung, but her heart whispered that this stranger was the only person in the room not trying to break her. Her fingers trembled as she lifted her hand. 1 hour, she whispered. Adrian closed his hand around hers, steady and warm. Together, they walked out past Claudia's outrage, past Vanessa's stunned silence, past the house that had been her prison, into something unknown. But for the first time in a long time, Maya felt the faintest flicker of hope. And together, they walked out. If you felt Maya's pain and strength, hit that like button and drop a comment with where you're watching from. You might not be alone. The rain had softened into a mist by the time Adrian's car pulled away from the estate. Maya sat silently in the passenger seat, clutching a blanket he'd gently draped over her shoulders. Her fingers trembled slightly, bruises fresh and dark along her wrists. The interior of the sleek black Lincoln Navigator smelled faintly of leather and cedar, rich, clean, unfamiliar. Everything about Adrian Cole was unfamiliar. She stole a glance at him. He didn't speak. His jaw was tight, one hand gripping the wheel with quiet intensity, the other occasionally adjusting the temperature control like he was desperate to do something, anything to comfort her. She broke the silence first. You said, "You're my husband." Adrian nodded but didn't look at her. 3 months ago. I don't remember, she whispered. Not a second of it. You wouldn't, he said. Not after what they did. Maya turned her gaze back out the window, watching the trees blur past. Her mind was a whirlwind of pain and confusion. And beneath all of it, the ever-present image of her father smiling, strong, his deep baritone laugh echoing through the study as he explained building blueprints to her like fairy tales when she was 8. He'd called her his architect, his greatest creation. Then, just like that, he was gone. She remembered the funeral clearly. The press had swarmed outside St. Andrew's Episcopal Church in Georgetown. Rain had poured in sheets that day too, drenching the black umbrellas and designer suits of DC's elite. Claudia had stood at the front in a tailored navy dress, her arms wrapped tightly around Vanessa like they were the grieving ones. Maya had delivered the eulogy, voice cracking but steady. She hadn't cried, not yet. The grief had been too fresh, too numbing. 2 days later, the will had been read in the very room where her father used to help her with homework. Mr. Alton, the family lawyer for over 20 years, had looked worn and hesitant as he opened the thick envelope. To my beloved daughter, Maya Camille William, he read aloud. I leave my entire estate, including the Bennett Construction Corporation, all associated properties, stocks, and private accounts. Silence. Maya's breath caught. She had never even dreamed of that kind of inheritance. To my wife, Claudia Elaine Bennett, Mr. Alton continued. I leave a one-time payment of $100,000 and wish her well. To her daughter, Vanessa Ann Price, I leave $50,000 in trust for her future. Claudia's face had remained frozen, her lips pressed into a cold line. But Maya had seen it, the twitch at the corner of her eye, the barely contained rage. The moment they left the room, Claudia's voice turned into ice. "You manipulated him," she had whispered in Maya's ear. "You poisoned his mind, you little snake. That money should have been mine." Maya hadn't responded. There was nothing to say. That was the moment it all began unraveling. Back in Adrian's car, Maya shivered. "She said I was unstable," she murmured. "That I needed rest. That I was grieving too hard." I thought, maybe she was right. I felt crazy. "She made sure you did," Adrian said. "Gaslighting, isolation, control. Classic abusive tactics." Maya looked at him again, still unsure. "Why did I marry you?" Adrian glanced at her, then just a flicker of his eyes. There was something there, sadness, anger, something deeper. "You came to me," he said. "I didn't know who you were. You said your life was in danger, that you needed protection, that if you were legally someone's wife, they couldn't touch you." Maya shook her head slowly. "That doesn't sound like me." "You were desperate," Adrian said, "but determined. You didn't cry. You didn't beg. You came with a plan. I respected that." She closed her eyes. "Then why don't I remember?" Adrian pulled into the underground parking of a luxury hotel near DuPont Circle. A valet opened her door. Adrian helped her out, hand firm around hers. They rode the elevator in silence. The penthouse suite was spacious but warm. Hardwood floors, a fireplace flickering gently, cream-colored sofas, an open kitchen that smelled faintly of rosemary and lemon. Maya collapsed into the armchair by the window, legs weak beneath her. Adrian set down her blanket and crouched in front of her. "You've been drugged," he said quietly. "There are substances that cause memory gaps. I had a toxicology screen done when you first disappeared. I recognized the symptoms." Maya's heart skipped. "Disappeared? You were gone for almost 2 months before anyone saw you again. No bank activity, no phone records. Then suddenly you appeared at your father's funeral, looking different, distant." "I don't remember any of that," she whispered. He nodded. "I believe you." She looked into his eyes for the first time. He didn't flinch, didn't look away. For a moment, the room felt steady. "I don't know who to trust," she said. "I don't even trust myself." Adrian's voice softened. "You don't have to trust me. Not yet. Just stay. Eat. Rest. Let me help you remember." "No." Maya stared out the window. Below, the city lights glittered like fireflies over wet pavement. She wondered if her father had felt this alone in his last days. A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. Adrian rose and turned to leave the room, giving her space. But before he reached the hallway, she spoke. "Thank you," she whispered. He paused. Then, without turning, said, "Don't thank me yet." Alone in the quiet, Maya sat in her father's oversized robe, one Adrian had packed from the estate. She clutched it to her chest and breathed him in. Even through the pain, the fear, and the questions, she felt it. Something was waking inside her. Not just the memories, but the fight. Maya awoke in darkness. For a moment, she forgot where she was. The ceiling above her was high, coffered, painted cream with gold trim, nothing like the low, peeling plaster of the guest room Claudia had locked her in. The sheets were warm, soft, smelling faintly of lavender. A distant hum of the city whispered beneath the thick hotel windows. Then she remembered. Adrian. The escape. The car. The truth. Or the beginning of it. She sat up slowly, muscles aching as if her body still hadn't recovered from the days of starvation and bruises. Her hand brushed over her ribcage and winced. Still tender. Claudia's kicks had left more than purple marks. They'd etched shame into her bones. The clock on the nightstand blinked 4:12 a.m. in soft blue digits. She swung her legs over the edge of the bed, feet touching cold floor. Somewhere in the suite, she heard a voice low, distant, calm. "Adrian." Maya walked slowly down the hall, wrapped in a hotel robe several sizes too large. The light from the living room spilled softly onto the hardwood. Adrian stood near the window, phone to his ear, voice hushed. He wore a black t-shirt and slacks, barefoot, a glass of water in his hand. She has no memory of the ceremony, he said. But the tox screen matches what we suspected. Prolonged exposure, rohypnol, or something stronger. He paused. Yes. I'll get her to the clinic first thing tomorrow. Maya stopped, not wanting to intrude. But Adrian glanced her way and immediately ended the call. You should be resting, he said, setting the phone down. His voice was gentle, but his eyes studied her carefully, like he was assessing her strength, her limits. I couldn't sleep, she replied. My head still, loud. Would tea help? She nodded. He moved into the kitchen, put the kettle on with practiced ease. For a billionaire, he moved with a kind of quiet humility. No grandeur, no arrogance. Everything about him was composed, restrained, except for his eyes. His eyes were always burning with something unspoken. She sat on the couch, pulling the robe closer. I remember a sound, she said suddenly. A bell. Every night at the same time. A dull metal bell, like a school or a clock. Adrian turned from the stove. Do you remember where you were? She shook her head. No windows. The air smelled moldy, like old books, and something bitter. Medicine, maybe. He handed her the tea. She wrapped her hands around the mug and let the warmth seep into her palms. We'll trace it, he said. The investigators are already cross-referencing properties tied to Claudia's name. Her maiden name. Any shell companies. If she kept you somewhere hidden, it'll show up. Maya took a sip. Peppermint. Smooth. Cooling. She always said I was like my mother, she murmured. Too soft. Too emotional. But Dad used to say that was my strength. That buildings fall when they're rigid, but ones that bend survive. Adrian sat across from her, arms resting on his knees. Your father was a smart man. Her throat tightened. I still don't understand. Why would he leave it all to me? He knew Claudia would come for me. Because he trusted you, Adrian said. And maybe he knew she was capable of worse. The room fell silent for a moment. Maya's fingers trembled slightly as she clutched the cup. She said I was crazy, Maya whispered, that I was losing touch. She had Vanessa record me during breakdowns, screaming, crying. They were planning to put me away. Adrian didn't flinch, and they would have if I hadn't found you. Her eyes met his. Why did you agree to help me, a stranger? Adrian leaned back slightly, voice steady. Because I believe in protecting people who can't fight for themselves. And because when you walked into my office 3 months ago, something about you didn't feel like a stranger. Oh, Maya's heart skipped. I was wearing a gray coat, she said suddenly, memory flickering. And I had a folder. I think I brought something. Adrian nodded slowly. Yes, you had a lab report. Toxicology analysis on your father's medication. You didn't want to go to the police until you had more. Maya pressed her palms to her forehead. I thought I was paranoid, but I was right. You were, he said, and you were brave. She looked up, eyes glassy. I'm not brave now. No. Adrian reached forward, placing a hand gently over hers. You're sitting here, alive, talking. That's brave enough. She didn't pull away. A long silence passed between them. Quiet and full of unspoken things. Then Adrian's phone buzzed. He picked it up, scanned it, then looked at Maya. My team just confirmed it. There's a property under Claudia's mother's name, an old convent turned boarding house, abandoned, rural, secluded, less than an hour from where you were found. Maya's blood turned cold. That's where she kept me, she whispered. That's the bell. Adrian stood. We'll go tomorrow. First the clinic, then the property. Maya nodded, her voice barely audible. Okay. As she rose to return to bed, Adrian called her name. She turned. I want you to know something, he said. You don't owe me anything. I'm not doing this for a reward. I'm doing it because you were brave enough to ask for help when no one else listened. Maya swallowed hard. For the first time in weeks, her chest felt less tight. Thank you, she said again. This time, he didn't say don't thank me yet. He just nodded. And as she walked back to the room, a single thought settled into her bones. She wasn't done fighting. Not yet. The clinic was quiet, tucked into a discreet corner of Northern Virginia where high-end privacy met top-tier medicine. Maya sat in a plush leather chair in the private waiting room, her fingers loosely interlaced in her lap. Her left wrist, still faintly bruised, bore a pressure cuff now, the device quietly hissing as it recorded her vitals. The doctor, a middle-aged black woman named Dr. Lorraine Bishop, had greeted her with a warm, no-nonsense tone that Maya appreciated instantly. No pity. No overly cheerful bedside platitudes. Just respect. "You'll be with me for the next few hours," Dr. Bishop had said. "We'll do blood panels, a neuro exam, and a memory response test. No police involved unless you say the word." Adrian made sure of that. Now, as Maya waited between tests, she found her gaze locked on the framed photograph above the fireplace, an image of Dr. Bishop and her daughters at a science fair. For some reason, it calmed her. Adrian sat on a couch across the room, tapping through emails silently, giving her space. But every few minutes, he'd glance up to check on her, as if to reassure himself she hadn't disappeared. She broke the silence. "What happens if they find the drugs in my system?" Adrian lowered the tablet. "Then we have evidence. Of forced sedation. Of manipulation. It strengthens your case and helps us explain the memory gaps." Maya nodded slowly, still trying to process that her life had become a case. "Will it help with custody?" she asked, unsure what word to use. Adrian blinked. "You mean the estate?" She nodded. He leaned forward. "Claudia and Vanessa don't have legal standing, not unless you sign those transfer papers. That's why they were pressuring you so hard." Maya looked down. Her ribs still ached. Her shoulder throbbed where Vanessa had yanked it. "They nearly got what they wanted," she whispered. "If you hadn't shown up when you did." Adrian's expression darkened. "They never deserved it. Your father built that company for you." She looked up sharply. "You knew him?" Adrian hesitated. "We met once, briefly, at a fundraiser for veterans housing. He mentioned you said his daughter was going to change the face of American architecture." Maya's chest tightened. "My mother," she murmured, "was a community planner in Baltimore. She used to take me to project sites. My dad said I got my stubbornness from her." Adrian smiled faintly. "That tracks." Dr. Bishop returned, holding a slim folder and a concerned look. "I'm still waiting on the full tox panel," she began. "But the preliminary results are consistent with benzodiazepine-class sedatives. Your system's clearing it, but the exposure was consistent, frequent, likely daily." Maya's throat dried. "So I really was being drugged." "Yes," Dr. Bishop said gently. "And the combination with stress, isolation, and psychological pressure? It's a recipe for memory disorientation." Maya swallowed hard. "Can I recover? With rest, therapy, and proper nutrition? Absolutely," Dr. Bishop said. "But I'd recommend staying away from the estate. That environment is toxic literally and emotionally." Adrian nodded. "She's staying with me for now. Until we finish this." Dr. Bishop gave Maya's hand a gentle squeeze. "We'll get you back." Later that evening, back at the hotel, Maya stepped out of the shower, her body wrapped in a fresh robe. She felt cleaner, lighter, but the soreness in her muscles reminded her that her healing had only just begun. On the dining table sat a file folder. Adrian had left a note beside it. "Read when ready. No pressure." She sat down slowly and opened it. Transfer of ownership documents. The same ones Claudia had tried to force her to sign, now annotated. Analyzed by Adrian's legal team. Pages of fine print. Lines where her signature was meant to go. Highlighted clauses in red. One clause stood out. "Upon full transfer, Maya Camille William forfeits all claims to Bennett Construction, Bennett Family Holdings, and any current or future revenue or equity shares." Below it, Adrian had scribbled in blue ink, "They would have erased you completely." She felt the pressure return to her chest, like hands squeezing the breath from her. The door opened behind her softly. Adrian walked in with 2 mugs of tea. "I thought it was important you saw what they were trying to do," he said. Maya nodded, eyes still locked on the papers. "They didn't just want the company. They wanted to erase me from the family. From my father's legacy. They wanted silence," Adrian said, And control. Maya took a long breath, hands curling into fists. I was going to sign it, she admitted. The night you came, I was going to give them everything. I thought maybe if I did, they'd let me go. Adrian placed the mug beside her. You didn't. That's what matters. She looked up at him. Do you think I'm weak? His brow furrowed. No. I think you're human, and exhausted, and still standing. Her throat tightened. I want them exposed, Adrian, not just punished. I want the world to see them for who they are. He nodded. Then we do it right. We gather the proof. And when the time comes, we make sure no one can deny the truth. She stared at the folder, then closed it with a slow, deliberate motion. I'm not signing anything, she said. Not this time. Adrian smiled just a little. Good. That night, Maya stood at the window alone, watching the lights of Washington flicker in the darkness. She didn't feel safe yet. She didn't feel strong yet. But for the first time in weeks, she felt something else. Purpose. Maya woke before sunrise, though she barely remembered falling asleep. Pale morning light crept through the hotel curtains, brushing across her cheeks and warming the bruise near her jaw. She inhaled carefully. Her ribs still protested, but the sharp pain had dulled to an ache. She sat up slowly, letting her body settle before she tried standing. Adrian was already awake. She found him in the living room, leaning over a spread of documents and digital files, his sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, hair slightly disheveled. It was the first time he looked less like a billionaire executive and more like a man who hadn't slept in days. He glanced up when she stepped into the room. Morning, he said softly. How are you feeling? Like I was thrown down a flight of stairs, she said, rubbing her shoulder. But better. He nodded, relief flickering through his eyes before he masked it. Good. We have a lot to cover today. Maya approached the table. What is all this? Everything I've gathered since the day you disappeared, Adrian replied. And everything you brought me before everything went dark. She froze. What I brought you? Adrian pulled a slim manila envelope from the stack and handed it to her. This. Maya hesitated, then opened it. Inside were 3 items. A lab report from a private toxicology firm. A small USB drive labeled Bennett Restricted. A handwritten note in her own handwriting. Her breath caught. Her handwriting. Familiar loops and slants. A style she recognized even in her exhaustion. She unfolded the note with trembling fingers. Adrian, if they find out I know, I'm dead. Dad wasn't sick. He was poisoned slowly. I think Claudia is involved. I need legal protection. I can't go to the police yet. Please help me. I can pay. I just need safety. Maya, her chest tightened as if someone were squeezing her lungs. I wrote this? Adrian nodded. You were terrified. You said you couldn't trust anyone else. But why you? She whispered. Because I have resources, influence, security. He paused. And I don't scare easily. Maya looked down at the letter. Dad, poisoned. I knew she was cruel, but I never imagined she did, Adrian said. We're going to prove it. He slid a tablet toward her. On the screen were photos of her father's medication bottles, labels smudged. Pills chipped. You brought these too, Adrian said. You had your father's prescriptions tested. Every bottle Claudia handled had trace elements that shouldn't have been there. Maya's stomach twisted. How long? Months, Adrian said. Slow poisoning. Enough to look like natural decline. Her throat tightened. She remembered her father's tired eyes in the months before his death. His shortness of breath. Claudia insisting he needed her help. Claudia bringing him his meals, his supplements, his tea. Claudia brushing his hair back and calling him my darling Gerald while slowly killing him. Maya sank into a nearby chair, covering her face with her hands. I should have seen it. I should have. Adrian knelt in front of her, gently pulling her hands away. Stop. This isn't your fault. She fooled everyone. Your father trusted her. You trusted him. That's not a crime. Maya blinked away tears. I need to find out what happened in those missing months, what she did to me. No. And we will, Adrian said, piece by piece. He rose, returning to the table. But there's something else you need to see first. Maya stood and followed him to the far side of the room where he had a laptop connected to a small projector. With a single click, a still image appeared on the wall, a frame from a courthouse lobby. Maya gasped. It was her, in a gray coat, standing beside Adrian, both signing documents at a clerk's desk. That's me, she whispered. And that's Judge Riley, Adrian said. He officiated the marriage. Why don't I remember any of this? Adrian hesitated. Because you were already showing signs of early sedation. You kept losing focus, repeating yourself. After the ceremony, I insisted you stay somewhere safe until we could gather evidence. And, she pressed, and the next day, you didn't show up to our meeting. You vanished. His jaw tightened. I filed missing persons under your maiden name. I hired private investigators. I traced every lead. For weeks. Nothing. Then you appeared at the funeral thin, disoriented, barely present, and Claudia never left your side. The truth was a slow burn spreading through her chest. She was drugging me before Dad died, Maya whispered. Most likely, Adrian said. Your symptoms were too advanced for just 10 days of exposure. Her pulse quickened. Then she was preparing to take everything from the beginning. Adrian exhaled, nodding. And she would have succeeded if you'd signed those papers. Maya shuddered. I almost did. Almost doesn't count, he said gently. She turned away, arms wrapped around herself. I feel stupid, blind. Then let me show you something that proves you're not. He clicked to the next file. It was of footage log labels, timestamps, data entries. What is this? She asked. Adrian's voice dropped. Security footage you collected from your father's study, before you disappeared. Maya felt the breath freeze in her chest. I don't remember doing that. But you did, he said. You knew something was wrong. You didn't just suspect, you investigated. You were preparing a case. Maya closed her eyes, fighting the wave of emotion swelling in her chest. She'd been fighting long before she understood she was fighting. Adrian placed a hand on her shoulder, not claiming, not assuming, simply offering a steady presence. You're stronger than you think, he said. You got this far on your own. Now you're not alone. She opened her eyes and looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time, she understood something. Adrian hadn't rescued her because she was weak. He rescued her because she had fought until she couldn't anymore, and he stepped in where she left off. She straightened her shoulders. What's the next step? We examine the footage, he said. Find what you found. Use it to expose her. Maya nodded. Her voice steadied. Then let's finish what I started. The living room lights were dimmed, and the silence was heavy with anticipation. Adrian set up the screen while Maya curled into the arm of the couch, her knees tucked under her chin, blanket draped over her shoulders like armor. Her heartbeat was loud in her ears, not from fear, exactly, but something deeper. A cold, heavy knowing. Adrienne clicked play. The first video flickered to life. It was grainy, captured from a small security camera, tucked inside the chandelier of her father's study, a room that had always felt like a sanctuary. Now, it felt like a crime scene. Maya leaned forward. The timestamp read March 3rd, 6:48 p.m. She recognized the room instantly. The dark walnut paneling, the worn leather armchair her father always sat in, the heavy green banker's lamp glowing warmly. Her father sat at his desk, reading over blueprints. Then Claudia entered. Maya's body tensed. Claudia was smiling, polished, graceful, wearing a silk cream blouse and pearl earrings. Her hair was tied back in a bun, not a strand out of place. She held a tray with a cup of tea and set it gently before him. Her father didn't look up. What's this? He asked, distracted. Chamomile, Claudia replied sweetly, with a touch of valerian. You've been so tense lately, darling. Maya's fingernails dug into the blanket. She knew that tone, that false warmth, the same one Claudia had used every time she told Maya she was too sensitive or overthinking things again. Her father took the cup and sipped. Claudia sat on the arm of his chair, her hand grazing his shoulder. You really should let me take over some of the company meetings. You've been pushing yourself too hard. I can manage, he said softly, but Maya noticed the subtle shift. His speech was slower, more slurred than usual. Adrian paused the video. Watch this. He zoomed in on the teacup. A second window opened a forensic scan of the residue on the rim. Traces of lorazepam detected. Maya gasped. Valium. Adrian nodded. It builds slowly, subtle at first, enough to make someone feel tired, unfocused, trusting. He resumed the footage. In the video, Claudia smiled again, brushing a kiss against her husband's cheek. "You trust me, don't you?" she asked. Her father looked up. "Of course." The screen went black. Adrian clicked the next file. March 10th, 8:17 p.m. This time, the camera caught Vanessa entering the room alone. She rifled through Maya's father's briefcase, pulling out documents, mostly financial reports and legal papers. She snapped photos of them with her phone and tucked them back exactly as they were. She was helping Claudia build a case, Adrian said, trying to find anything they could use to push for power of attorney. Maya exhaled shakily. "I knew they were circling. I just didn't realize how calculated it was." Adrian sat beside her now, not touching, but close enough that she could feel the steadiness in his presence. "There's more," he said. The third file opened. March 16th, 3:02 a.m. Maya's breath caught. It was her. She was sitting in the study, eyes wide, frantic, her hair tangled, wearing a hoodie and leggings. She was clearly afraid. Her hands trembled as she held the lab report, placing it inside an envelope, the same one Adrian had shown her days ago. Then, she whispered into the camera, "If anything happens to me, if I disappear, they did it. Claudia and Vanessa, this house isn't safe anymore. I'm leaving. I'm getting help." The Maya on the screen stood, pushed the envelope into her backpack, and left the room. Adrian paused the footage and looked at her. "You recorded that just hours before coming to my office," he said. "You were lucid, aware, brave." Tears streamed silently down Maya's cheeks. She had forgotten her own courage. "I wasn't crazy," she whispered. "No," Adrian said. "You were right." They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the sun had risen fully now, washing the skyline in gold. Birds flitted by the window, unaware of the storm unraveling indoors. Maya wiped her face. "This footage, it proves everything. The poisoning, the manipulation, even the fact that I tried to seek help." Adrian nodded. "We're building a timeline now. With the lab results, the video files, and your written note, we have a strong case." "But it's not enough yet, is it?" she asked. "Not for criminal charges," he admitted. "Claudia will claim the footage was tampered with, that you were mentally unstable, that your accusations stem from grief." "She'll play the grieving widow," Maya muttered bitterly. Adrian looked thoughtful. "Unless we flip the narrative." She turned to him. "How?" "We go public," he said simply. "A controlled leak. Your side, your voice. You're a public figure now, heiress to one of the largest legacy construction firms in the country. People will listen." Maya stared at him. "You want me to tell the press?" "Not tabloids," he clarified. "A reputable outlet, a serious journalist, someone who values the truth." "No." Her stomach twisted at the thought of her bruises on a national screen, her voice trembling under studio lights. But then she thought of her father, of the quiet dignity he had carried, even in death. He deserved better than what Claudia had done to his name. "I'll do it," she said quietly, "but only if I control how the story's told." Adrian smiled. "That's what I was hoping you'd say." He stood, walking to the kitchen. "We'll need to move locations again," he said over his shoulder. "Once this gets out, Claudia will come unglued, and she'll come hunting." "I'm not afraid of her anymore," Maya said, rising to her feet. Adrian returned with 2 mugs. He handed her one. "You should be," he said calmly. "She's not finished yet." Maya took the mug, holding his gaze. "Neither am I." 2 days later, Maya stood at the edge of a rooftop garden overlooking the Potomac River. The skyline glimmered under a blanket of late spring haze, sunlight bouncing off glass buildings like beacons, but all she could feel was the weight of the storm gathering behind her. She was moments away from telling the world the truth. The interview was set in a private broadcast studio rented by Adrian's media team. Not a flashy setup, nothing theatrical. Just a room, 2 chairs, cameras, and a journalist known for pulling no punches. Elena Reese, a former war correspondent who now hosted an investigative show on public broadcast. Maya had watched her work for years, respected her quiet, unflinching style. Now, she was trusting her with the most painful parts of her life. Adrian approached from behind, his steps quiet. He was dressed in a navy suit, tailored but understated. A quiet anchor in the whirlwind. "You still have time to cancel," he said gently. Maya didn't turn. "If I wait any longer, Claudia will rewrite the story." Adrian nodded. "She already tried." Maya's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" He pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. A recent tabloid headline glared back at her. "Billionaire's widow claims stepdaughter is mentally unstable. Maya needs help, not a fortune." The accompanying photo was a heavily edited image of Maya leaving the clinic with Adrian. "She's laying the groundwork," he said, "framing you as emotionally fragile, exploited by me. She's appealing to the court of public opinion." Maya's jaw tightened. "Let her try." They rode to the studio in silence, save for the low hum of traffic. Maya kept her hands clasped in her lap, practicing her breathing. She'd written out her testimony the night before, just bullet points. No script. Adrian had warned her, "Speak from the truth. Don't perform. Just be who you were when you fought to survive." Elena greeted her with a firm handshake and steady eyes. "This isn't a hit piece," she said. "I'm here to tell your story. You have final edit approval before anything airs." Maya nodded. "Thank you." Lights dimmed, cameras rolled. The first few questions were simple about her childhood, her father's influence, her education. Maya spoke with a calm voice, but her palms were damp. Then the tone shifted. Elena leaned forward. "When did you begin to suspect something was wrong?" Maya hesitated. "I think part of me always knew. Claudia was always controlling. But after my father got sick, it felt like she wanted me gone." "And what happened next?" "I started losing time," Maya said. "Waking up in different clothes, forgetting entire days." She said it was stress, but my instincts told me it was something else. So I had my father's medication tested. The results showed traces of sedatives he never should have been taking. Elena blinked, her face unreadable. "And you believe Claudia was responsible?" "I believe she wanted power," Maya said, "and she was willing to destroy anyone in her way to get it." She went on to explain the forced confinement, the missing days, the bruises, the footage. Elena listened quietly, never interrupting. When Maya recounted the moment Adrian found her frail, frightened, forgotten, her voice wavered, just once. But she didn't stop. The final question landed like a stone. "If Claudia were watching this right now, what would you say to her?" Maya looked straight into the lens. "I would say you failed," she said quietly. "You tried to erase me. You tried to bury my father's legacy. But I remember now. I'm not broken, and I'm not alone." Elena gave a quiet nod and signaled the crew to cut. Backstage, Adrian met her with a bottle of water and an unreadable expression. "You were brilliant." "No, I was terrified," she admitted. He smirked. "Still brilliant." That night, the segment aired online. Within minutes, it trended across platforms. Number Justice for Maya. Number Claudia exposed. Thousands of comments flooded, in some supportive, others skeptical. But the tide was turning. News outlets picked it up, lawyers called. Former employees of the Bennett household started reaching out anonymously with their own stories. But not everyone was celebrating. By morning, Maya's phone rang with a blocked number. She hesitated, then answered. "I warned you," Claudia's voice hissed. "You think you're safe? You have no idea how deep this goes." "Hello to you too," Maya said calmly. "How's the media storm treating you? You think a little pity party will save you? You're nothing. And Adrian, he's using you." Maya's stomach twisted, but her voice didn't waver. "Funny. That's what you said about my father, right before you poisoned him." A pause. Then Claudia hung up. Maya lowered the phone slowly. Adrian entered the room seconds later. "I heard. She's rattled. She's planning something," Maya said. "I know that tone." Adrian nodded. "Let her. The more she acts out, the more she shows the world who she really is." But Maya wasn't so sure. Claudia didn't make mistakes. Not unless she wanted someone to underestimate her. Later that evening, Maya reviewed a report from Adrian's security team. A note caught her eye. "Unmarked car spotted near hotel entrance. Driver unidentified. License plate missing." She frowned. "We need to move." Adrian didn't hesitate. I've already arranged it. New location, tighter security, and Maya, she looked up. This isn't just about proving she's guilty, he said. It's about surviving long enough to win. Maya nodded slowly. Then let's survive. They moved that night. The new safe house wasn't another sleek hotel suite or hidden luxury apartment. It was a restored Victorian farmhouse Adrian owned outside Charlottesville, surrounded by thick woods and a long gravel drive. Only locals would know. No neighbors for half a mile. No drones could fly low. And the house was protected with top-grade security, both digital and human. As Maya stepped out of the SUV, she breathed in the scent of pine and old earth. The air was crisper here, heavier with silence. For the first time since her nightmare began, it smelled like a place untouched by Claudia's shadow. Adrian helped her carry in the bags. She had few belongings, just the same duffel she'd arrived with. But what Maya carried now was heavier than clothes. Court files, toxicology reports, old photos, and the flash drive with the surveillance tapes. The farmhouse had been recently renovated but preserved its charm. Original wood beams, stone fireplace, a clawfoot tub upstairs, the kind of house that felt like it held stories of its own. Maya sank into the oversized couch as Adrian placed a tray of herbal tea beside her. They sat in silence for a moment, just letting the quiet stretch between them like a balm. But then Maya broke it. There's still something missing. Adrian turned. What do you mean? She bit her lip. Someone else was in the house. Not just Claudia and Vanessa. There was a maid, Mrs. Genevieve. She was old, maybe in her 60 seconds. She worked there for years. She was the only one who ever looked me in the eye. Adrian sat up straighter. Do you think she saw something? Maya nodded. She used to sneak food to me, whisper little prayers when she thought no one was listening. I always thought she was afraid, but maybe she was protecting me in the only way she could. Adrian's mind was already racing. Do you know where she is now? No. She vanished the same week Claudia forced me to sign the first NDA. I think Claudia sent her away or worse. Adrian rose and grabbed his phone. I'll have my team track her. If she's alive, we'll find her. The next morning, Adrian's investigator, Mark, arrived with news. We found her, Mark said. Genevieve Thompson, former housekeeper, 63, lives in a retirement home in Rockville. She left the Bennett estate 8 months ago with a severance package and a non-disclosure agreement. Maya's heart pounded. Will she talk to us? Mark hesitated. She's scared, but I think if you go in person, she might. An hour later, Maya and Adrian were sitting in a sunlit courtyard of the Rockville Assisted Living Facility. Birds chirped from a feeder nearby. Wheelchairs lined the porch. Then she saw her. Genevieve was thinner than Maya remembered. Her silver hair tied neatly in a bun, eyes sharp behind delicate glasses. She approached slowly with a cane, her mouth pressed into a tight line until she saw Maya. Her entire face softened. Maya, she said, voice cracking. Lord have mercy, child. Maya stood and reached for her, but Genevieve pulled her into a surprisingly firm hug. I prayed for you every day, the older woman whispered. I thought you were gone. They sat, and Adrian gave them space, stepping a few feet away to take a call. Maya leaned forward. Mrs. Genevieve, I need the truth. I need to know what you saw. Genevieve looked around, cautious. Claudia made me sign papers, threatened my son, said if I talked, bad things would happen, said people like me didn't survive scandals. You're safe now, Maya said, and we're building a case against her. Genevieve's hands trembled. She was poisoning him. I knew it. I saw her crush pills into his tea. At first I thought it was heart medicine, but the smell it was wrong. Did you tell anyone? Maya asked, barely breathing. I told the nurse once. 2 days later, she was fired. Claudia said she was stealing from the estate. Maya's stomach turned. What about me? Genevieve looked at her sadly. She called you unstable. Said you needed rest. But I saw the bruises. I saw Vanessa push you down the stairs once. They said it was an accident, but I knew better. Maya's fingers curled into fists. I left food by your door. I prayed outside your room every night. I wanted to help more, but I had no power. I was just a maid. You were more than that, Maya whispered. Genevieve reached into her purse and pulled out a small cloth pouch. Inside was a flash drive. I kept this. Security backups from the hallway cams, just in case. Maya's breath caught. You saved this? I saved you, Genevieve said, eyes full of fire. And now it's your turn. That night, Adrian uploaded the drive to a secure server. The footage confirmed what Genevieve had said and more. Vanessa dragging Maya by the arm down the hallway. Claudia locking Maya's room from the outside. A silent dinner where Claudia stirred a drink while smiling at Maya's father only to turn and dump something from a hidden capsule into the teacup behind her back. They had her. They finally had her. Adrian looked at Maya. This is enough for a grand jury, maybe more. Maya didn't smile. Her expression was steel. Let's take her down. Maya stared at the playback screen long after the final frame froze. The time-stamped footage from Genevieve's flash drive was more damning than anything they'd had so far. Claudia's manipulation now on full display, the calculated dosing, the cruel confinement, Vanessa's physical assault, all of it captured by a hallway camera they'd forgotten existed, but Genevieve hadn't. Adrian leaned against the edge of the desk, arms folded, his eyes locked on the screen. This changes everything. Maya turned to him slowly. We go public again. With this? No. Not yet, Adrian said. We give it to the prosecutor first. If we push too hard in the media before the case is filed, Claudia's lawyers will argue we poisoned the jury pool. Maya frowned. She tried to kill me. I know, Adrian said gently. And she will answer for it. But this needs to be airtight. Once this goes to court, we can't afford mistrials or technicalities. Mark, Adrian's head of security, entered the room with a laptop under one arm and tension in his eyes. We have a problem, he said. Adrian straightened. What kind? Mark set the laptop on the table and tapped the touchpad. A satellite image came into focus, an aerial shot of the farmhouse. 3 red dots hovered near the perimeter. Drones, Mark said. They've been circling since dawn. High-range surveillance tech, likely commercial grade. Could be paparazzi. But it's too coordinated. Adrian's face darkened. It's Claudia. She's searching for the leak, Maya murmured. She's nervous, Mark added. And she's looking for you. Adrian turned to Maya. We're moving again. Maya didn't argue. By nightfall, they were driving north in a black SUV with tinted windows, escorted by 2 security vehicles. Their new destination. A private apartment Adrian kept under an alias in Philadelphia. Less rustic, more urban anonymity. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse, a sleek, modern loft with blackout shades, bulletproof glass, and a biometric lock. Adrian offered her a weary smile as he scanned his thumb to disable the alarm system. Not exactly cozy, he said, but secure. Maya stepped inside, exhaling slowly as the door locked behind them. Her legs were sore, her mind a whirlwind, but her spine had stiffened into something new. Resolve. She poured herself a glass of water and turned to Adrian. What's the next step? Adrian opened his laptop. I've scheduled a meeting with the district attorney. Her name's Dana Kirkland, former federal prosecutor. Tough, sharp, fair. When? Tomorrow morning. Maya nodded. Adrian hesitated. You'll have to recount everything. Again, face to face, no edits, no cuts. I know. You're ready? Maya looked out the window at the city below. Her reflection stared back at her, tired, bruised, changed, but not broken. I'm done hiding, she said. The next morning, the meeting with DA Kirkland was held in a discreet downtown office. No courtroom, no press, just a quiet conference room with blinds drawn and a pitcher of water sweating on the table. Dana Kirkland was in her early 50s, with gray streaks through her pulled-back hair and a steel-cold gaze that missed nothing. She listened as Maya spoke first about her father's decline, then the gaslighting, the sedation, the assault, the confinement, the tapes. Halfway through, Dana lifted a hand. Why didn't you go to the police earlier? I tried, Maya said, her voice low, but I was isolated, disoriented. I didn't know who to trust. And you're married to Mr. Rhodes? Maya nodded. Why? Dana asked, not unkindly. Why not just hire him? Maya hesitated. Because I knew they were coming for everything. I thought being tied to someone untouchable might buy me time. Dana scribbled something in her notebook, then glanced up. You were smart. Desperate. Maybe. But smart. Adrian slid the flash drive across the table. Surveillance, audio, lab reports, NDA documents, threatening voicemails. It's all there. Dana picked it up slowly, turning it in her fingers. And you're willing to testify? Yes, Maya said. To relive everything. In front of her lawyers, in front of strangers? Maya's jaw clenched. Yes. Dana studied her a long moment, then nodded. Then let's bury her. 3 hours later, Maya and Adrian stepped into the hallway just as Dana's assistant caught up to them, out of breath. There's been a break-in, he panted, at the Charlottesville farmhouse. Adrian went still. What? Someone torched the entire property. Fire crews say it was intentional accelerant used, nothing salvageable. Maya's breath caught. Genevieve's flash drive, was it the only copy? No, Adrian said quickly. We backed it up to 3 encrypted servers, but Maya's hand went to her throat. She's not going to stop, not until I'm silenced. Adrian turned to her, eyes blazing. Then we make sure the next move is ours. That night, Maya received another anonymous call. She almost didn't answer, but something told her to pick up. There was silence for a beat, then a shaky breath. Maya, it's Ellen. I used to be your father's paralegal. Maya froze. Ellen? Are you okay? I'm scared, Ellen said. Claudia's people came to my house today. They asked if I had copies of your dad's will. They said if I didn't cooperate, they'd make sure I lost everything. Maya's blood ran cold. Do you still have the will? Yes, Ellen whispered, and the video recording of the reading, the one Claudia made disappear. Maya's hand tightened around the phone. Don't move. We're coming to get you. Adrian was already pulling on his jacket. She has the original will. Claudia tried to destroy the evidence of it. Maya's voice was ice. Then this ends now. It was nearly midnight when Maya and Adrian pulled up to the dimly lit suburban street in Baltimore where Ellen Sandler lived. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of place where porch lights stayed on all night, and curtains were always drawn a little tighter when things felt off. Tonight, everything felt off. Adrian parked 2 houses down from Ellen's, scanning the surroundings. His security instincts were on full alert. Too many parked cars without owners, too little noise. Maya, wrapped in a windbreaker, exhaled slowly. You think they're watching? Almost certainly, Adrian replied, but they don't know we're coming. They moved quickly, crossing the street under the cover of darkness. Maya rang the doorbell in a quick triple tap. The signal she and Ellen used back when Maya used to visit her father's office late at night. The door opened a crack. Maya? Ellen whispered. It's me, Maya said. We have to move fast. Ellen opened the door wider, revealing a woman in her late 40s with sharp eyes and trembling hands. Her curly hair was tucked under a hoodie, and her breath came in shallow bursts. They were here, she said, her voice shaking. 2 men, big. They said they worked for Claudia's attorneys, but they were lying. They asked about the will, where it was kept, if it had been copied. I lied, said it was destroyed, but I kept it, Maya. I couldn't let her erase him. Maya squeezed her hand. You did the right thing. Adrian stepped inside, checking the locks. Let's see what we're working with. Ellen led them into the kitchen, where an old file box sat on the table. From it, she pulled out a sealed envelope and a flash drive. This is the original, she said. Handwritten, signed, notarized, your father's final will and testament. And this, she tapped the drive, is the video recording of the will reading that was supposed to be archived with the estate attorney. Zuckring. Maya took the will in her hands. Her father's handwriting leapt off the page, confident, meticulous. The words hit her like thunder. I, Gerald Langston Bennett, of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this my last will and testament. I leave the entirety of my estate, my company shares, assets, and properties to my daughter, Maya Williams Bennett. Claudia Bennett is to receive no legal or financial claim upon my holdings upon my death. There was no ambiguity, no loopholes. Adrian examined the document carefully. There's a notary seal, and 2 witnesses. Was this version ever filed with the probate court? Maya asked. Ellen shook her head. Your father died before he could deliver it in person. Claudia intercepted everything. She bribed someone, maybe threatened them. I don't know. But when I went to work the Monday after he passed, the office was cleared out, and a new will had been filed. Conveniently naming Claudia as executor, Adrian muttered. Maya swallowed hard. She's not just a manipulator, she's a forger. Adrian reached for the flash drive. Let's see the video. They loaded it onto Ellen's laptop. The screen lit up, and there was Gerald Bennett, seated in his study, wearing a blue sweater and looking tired but alert. He spoke directly to the camera. If you're seeing this, it means I didn't make it in time, he began. Maya. My girl. I'm so sorry. I never should have let Claudia near my affairs. I was blind for too long. Maya covered her mouth with both hands, eyes wide with emotion. I've changed the will, Gerald continued. I've left everything to you. Claudia was never meant to have power over you. If she tries to challenge this, know that I've kept records, and I trust you to finish what I couldn't. The video ended. The room fell into silence. Adrian broke it first. This is everything. The motive, the forgery, the cover-up. Ellen's voice cracked. You can't leave this here. They'll come back. Oh, we won't, Maya said. We'll take it, and we'll make it count. But just as Adrian reached to pack the drive, the front window shattered. A brick clattered onto the floor beside the kitchen table. Maya screamed, ducking instinctively. Ellen hit the ground, hands over her head. Adrian shoved the table aside and crouched beside them, pulling Maya into cover with one hand and dialing his team with the other. Get to Baltimore now. He barked into the phone. We've got a breach. Oh. Another crash, this time the back window. Adrian moved fast, herding both women into the hallway. Out the side door. Stay low. They slipped out through the garage, into the darkness. Adrian's car was still parked down the street. As they moved, Maya heard footsteps behind them running, fast, heavy. Then headlights flared. A second SUV, unfamiliar. Adrian pushed Maya into the back seat, barked for Ellen to get in front, and peeled away just as the other vehicle lurched toward them. Tires screeched. Metal groaned. A near miss. Maya looked back just in time to see two masked men chasing after them, one holding a phone to his ear. Claudia knows, she whispered. Back at the Philadelphia safe house, they sat in silence, hearts still racing. Mark arrived 10 minutes later with 2 bodyguards. Ellen was ushered into a guest room under full protection. Adrian locked the flash drive and original will into a high-security case, triple encrypted and backed up remotely. Maya, wrapped in a blanket, stared out the window at the city lights. She's trying to scare us, Adrian said softly. She already did, Maya replied. But now she's desperate. Adrian stepped closer. Which means she'll make mistakes. Maya nodded, a fire growing in her eyes. And we'll be ready. It was barely 8 a.m. when Maya stepped into the cavernous lobby of the courthouse in downtown Philadelphia. Despite the early hour, the halls buzzed with motion lawyers in tailored suits hurrying between elevators, clerks balancing armfuls of files, the low murmur of conversations that carried the weight of justice and urgency. But to Maya, it all faded beneath the thrum of her heart. Today was the pre-indictment hearing, and she wasn't just here to sit in the gallery, she was here to stand. Adrian walked beside her, a quiet fortress in a gray suit. His expression gave nothing away, but his hand on the small of her back was grounding, supportive, steady. Dana Kirkland met them near the security line. The district attorney looked just as fierce in her tailored blazer as she had in the strategy meeting last night. Claudia's attorneys have filed a motion to suppress the video and the flash drive, Dana said bluntly. They're arguing chain of custody issues. Maya's stomach twisted. They're going to try to discredit Genevieve. They'll try, Dana said. But the video's time. Stamped. And we have sworn statements confirming its authenticity. We'll fight the suppression motion and win. Adrian narrowed his eyes. And the will? They haven't mentioned it yet, Dana replied, which tells me they know it's real, and they're stalling for time. We'll file for injunction this afternoon to freeze all estate actions under the forged will. As they entered the courtroom, Maya froze for just a moment, because there she was. Claudia. She sat at the defense table in a white suit with pearl earrings, as calm and composed as a senator at a fundraiser. Her legs were crossed, hands clasped over a designer leather folio. She turned as if sensing Maya, and their eyes locked. There was no surprise in Claudia's expression, only disdain, and a flash of cold fury just beneath the surface. Vanessa sat beside her, more anxious, her foot bouncing, her fingers tugging at the hem of her blazer. Unlike her mother, Vanessa was cracking. Good. Maya and Adrian took their seats behind the prosecution table as Dana walked confidently to the podium. The judge, a silver-haired woman with a sharp brow, called the room to order. Dana opened with calm precision. Your Honor, the state presents overwhelming evidence to support formal charges of fraud, elder abuse, unlawful confinement, and willful inheritance obstruction against Claudia Bennett and Vanessa Dre. The room stirred. Dana tapped her file. In addition to witness testimony, toxicology, and digital security footage, we have recovered the original, notarized will of the late Gerald Langston Bennett and a video confession indicating a conscious effort to protect his daughter, Maya Williams Bennett, from exploitation by the defendants. Claudia's attorney, a thin man with a sharp tongue, stood quickly. Objection, Your Honor. The so-called will was not filed through proper probate channels and lacks verified chain of custody. Furthermore, the video in question was delivered under questionable means. The judge raised a hand. You'll have your chance to argue suppression at the hearing. For now, I will allow it to remain part of the discovery. Maya's breath eased slightly. Dana continued, methodical and fierce. We request a protective order for Miss Bennett and all witnesses, including Genevieve Thompson and Ellen Sandler, due to clear acts of intimidation, including a verified arson and attempted home invasion. The defense objected again, but the judge didn't hesitate. Granted. Adrian leaned over to Maya. That's huge. They can't go near you, or them. Maya gave the faintest nod. Her hands were clasped tightly, knuckles white. After an hour of arguments, motions, and objections, the judge called a recess. The courtroom emptied slowly, but Maya remained seated, watching Claudia, and Claudia watched her. Eventually, Claudia stood and approached calm, poised, as if this were a casual encounter at a country club brunch. I must say, Maya, she said coolly, you always did enjoy playing the victim, even as a child. So dramatic. Adrian moved protectively beside Maya, but she held her ground. No more masks, Claudia, Maya said. Everyone's watching now. Claudia smiled thinly. They'll tire of your sob story, eventually. You made one mistake, Maya replied, her voice low but unshaking. You thought I'd stay quiet. You thought money could cover your tracks. Claudia's eyes flickered. This isn't over. Maya didn't blink. No, it's just beginning. Dana rejoined them moments later, ushering Maya toward the exit. We've secured the next court date 10 days from now. The judge wants all parties ready for the preliminary hearing. Oh, will they be indicted? Maya asked. Based on what we've submitted, Dana nodded. It's only a matter of time. Outside, the air felt different, thinner, sharper. Paparazzi had begun to gather at the sidewalk, though Adrian's team kept them at bay. Maya stepped into the waiting SUV, heart still pounding. As the car pulled away, she looked back at the courthouse. We made it through the first round, Adrian said beside her. But it's going to get uglier, Maya whispered. Yes, he agreed, but you're not alone. She turned to him. For the first time in a long time, she said softly, I believe that. That night, in the safe house, Maya stared at the wall of documents, post-it notes, court schedules, and photos they'd assembled on a giant corkboard Adrian had installed in the living room. She added a new photo, her father's signature on the true will. A promise, a truth. I'm going to finish this, she whispered. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You should have stayed buried. V. Vanessa. Maya stared at it for a moment, then deleted it. She looked at Adrian, sitting across the room, reviewing case files. They're scared, she said. They should be, he replied without looking up. The next morning arrived with a knock on the safe house door. It wasn't urgent. It wasn't loud. Just 3 steady knocks, precise, deliberate. Adrian paused mid-step on his way to the kitchen. Mark was already moving, hand on his sidearm, checking the camera feed. Maya rose from the dining table, still in her robe, heart beating faster. It's her, Mark said quietly. Who? Adrian asked. He turned the monitor slightly. Vanessa Dre. Standing alone, no entourage, no attorney, just a navy coat and trembling hands stuffed into its pockets. Maya stared at the screen, her stomach tightening. What does she want? Trouble, Adrian said under his breath. Or redemption? Mark opened the door but kept his hand near his weapon. Vanessa didn't flinch. I came alone, she said. I need to talk to Maya. Adrian stepped forward. If you think you can intimidate her here— I'm not here to fight, Vanessa interrupted, her voice raw, almost broken. I'm here to confess. Silence fell. Adrian looked to Maya. Maya's eyes were cautious but curious. Let her in. Duh. Vanessa entered slowly, her eyes darting around as if expecting someone to drag her away at any moment. She sat stiffly in a dining chair, her coat still on. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she began. But you need to know what Claudia's planning next. Maya sat opposite her, her voice cool. Why the sudden change of heart? Vanessa looked down. Because I used to think I was just following orders, that it was loyalty, that she knew best. But lately, she swallowed. I'm starting to think she's capable of worse than I ever imagined. Adrian crossed his arms. Start talking. Vanessa's hands gripped the edge of the table. She has a document, fabricated medical records. She's planning to claim Maya was mentally unstable when the new will was written, that she was under duress, manipulated. She's already met with a doctor who agreed to testify, for a price. Maya's breath hitched. She's going to try and get the court to declare you legally unfit to inherit, Vanessa added. Once that happens, the will gets tossed. The estate defaults back to the previous version. Hers. Adrian's jaw clenched. Perjury, medical fraud, that's a felony. Vanessa looked up, eyes full of remorse. You don't know what it's like to grow up with her. Everything is control. Everything is leverage. Maya said nothing. She just stared, her silence louder than accusation. I have proof, Vanessa said finally. I started recording our conversations. I thought I might need protection someday. Protection from your own mother? Adrian asked. Vanessa's voice cracked. She's not a mother. She's a machine. She reached into her purse and handed over a small recorder. This is from 2 nights ago, after the first hearing. She thought I was asleep. Adrian plugged it into his laptop and pressed play. Claudia's voice hissed through the speakers, quiet but venomous. If she opens her mouth again, I'll finish what I started. Let the world believe she's crazy. Let them see her tremble. I'll bring the doctors, the stories, the staged interviews. Maya will break like her father did. And when she does, no one will remember her name. Silence. Then Vanessa's voice trembling in the background. And if she doesn't break, Claudia, then we crush hair. We sue. We smear. We destroy. I made that girl. I can unmake her. Adrian stopped the recording. Maya's fingers were trembling in her lap. Vanessa looked down again. I've sent copies to 3 different lawyers. If something happens to me, they go public. Why are you really here? Maya asked softly. To make it stop, Vanessa whispered. To stop pretending I'm not part of it. I helped cover things up. I lied. I watched you cry and called you weak. I pushed you. I'm not proud of who I was. She pulled a thin folder from her bag. Here. It's Claudia's ledger payments to the forger, the fake doctor, a PR firm to smear you online. I stole it from her office last night. Adrian opened it and scanned the pages. This could bury her. Maya sat still, eyes glassy, torn between rage and sorrow. Vanessa stood. I know I can't undo what I did, but maybe this helps. She turned to leave, but before she reached the door, Maya spoke. I don't forgive you, she said. Vanessa paused, nodding. I wouldn't expect you to. Maya stood. But if you really want to help, you'll testify. Vanessa nodded once, slowly. I will. After she left, Adrian turned to Maya. That was brave, letting her in. I needed to see her face, Maya whispered, to see if she was still my enemy or just another victim of Claudia. Adrian set the recorder and ledger in a secure case. This changes everything. The jury won't just hear facts now, they'll feel the fear. They'll understand how deep it goes. Maya leaned back in her chair, exhausted but strangely lighter. The enemy had fractured. Later that night, as the city slept beneath them, Maya stood on the balcony overlooking the skyline. Adrian joined her, handing her a mug of tea. "She's running out of moves," he said. Maya nodded. "But she's not done." "No," Adrian agreed. "But neither are we." The headlines hit at dawn. Claudia Bennett implicated in multi-million-dollar inheritance fraud scheme. Daughter-in-law speaks out. "I helped her lie." Secret recordings surface in billionaire estate battle. The story spread like wildfire. By mid-morning, every major news outlet was covering the scandal. Cable anchors dissected the timeline with chilling detail. The hidden will, the forged documents, the psychological warfare. And now, Vanessa Dre's shocking betrayal. Inside the Philadelphia safe house, Adrian watched the chaos unfold across 3 screens. His security team monitored online threats, bots attacking Maya's name on social platforms, and news clips being reshared millions of times. But amidst the noise, something crucial was happening. Public sympathy was shifting. For the first time, Maya wasn't the mysterious mixed-race daughter of a billionaire. She wasn't the reclusive wife of a tech mogul. She was the survivor. Maya sat quietly on the couch, her father's watch wrapped around her wrist. Her eyes were red, not from grief but from holding back every emotion she had suppressed for years. "She underestimated the truth," Maya said softly. "She always thought power could erase it." Adrian nodded. "Now it's her word against the world." The phone buzzed. It was Dana Kirkland. Adrian answered, then immediately handed it to Maya. "She wants to speak to you." Maya pressed the phone to her ear. "Maya," Dana's voice was urgent. "Claudia's lawyers just made contact. She's trying to make a deal." Maya's pulse spiked. "A plea deal?" "No, a media deal. She wants to give an exclusive interview to discredit you, says she'll expose the lies behind the rebellion. But we have an option." Dana's voice dropped lower. "If she tries to air her version, we hit her with the restraining order violations and evidence tampering charges before it goes live. But I need you to be ready. She may come at you personally." Maya's voice was calm. "Let her. I won't run again." They ended the call. By that afternoon, Claudia struck. A heavily edited video appeared on a fringe conservative network. In it, Claudia sat in a high-backed chair, bathed in soft light, wrapped in pearls, spinning tales. "My husband was very ill. He didn't know what he was doing at the end. Maya, she manipulated him. She was always troubled, always jealous. She married that tech billionaire to get leverage. She played us all. But the world wasn't buying it." Underneath the video, the comments scrolled faster than moderators could delete. "We saw the tapes. Vanessa already confessed. You gaslit that poor woman. Justice for Maya." Within hours, the network pulled the segment offline. Adrian received word from Mark that Claudia's financial accounts had been frozen by court order. The assets under Maya's rightful name were safe, but Claudia's vast empire was bleeding. Desperate and dangerous. That night, Maya was brushing her teeth when the power flickered, then cut entirely. The room plunged into darkness. Adrian's voice rang out from down the hall. "Everyone stay inside. Mark, check the breakers." Maya's body tensed. The safe house had backup power enough to run systems for days. This wasn't a blackout. It was sabotage. Mark burst back into the room seconds later. "It's local. Someone cut the exterior lines." Before he could say more, a thud echoed from the rooftop. Then another. Footsteps. Adrian shoved Maya behind him. Panic room. Now. They ran. Down the hallway. Behind the bookshelf. Into a steel door camouflaged as part of the wall. Inside, the lights hummed to life-independent battery system, thick walls, live feeds on every camera. Maya's hands shook as Adrian locked the steel barrier behind them. The monitors showed 3 masked figures on the rooftop, prying open a skylight. Mark's voice came over the intercom. "Security en route. 15 minutes. Maya stared at the screen. "She sent people to hurt me." Adrian placed a hand on her shoulder. "She sent people to scare you, but you're not that girl anymore." The intruders failed to breach the skylight. A piercing alarm sounded across the building. Red lights flashed. The 3 figures fled back the way they came, into a black SUV waiting in the alley. 5 minutes later, Philadelphia PD arrived. The footage was clear. Dana filed emergency charges before sunrise. Attempted assault, tampering with witness protection, conspiracy to intimidate a witness. Claudia's empire began to implode. By morning, the news turned again. Breaking. Claudia Bennett, under criminal investigation after attempted break-in. Philadelphia safe house breached. Da files additional charges. Exclusive. Vanessa Dre to testify against mother in federal court. Back in the safe house, Maya watched it unfold not as a victim, but as the woman who survived every lie, every threat, every scar. Adrian poured 2 cups of coffee and joined her on the couch. "She's cornered now," he said. Maya looked out at the horizon, a slow sunrise burning away the night. "I've spent years waiting for someone to save me," she said. "Now I understand. I was always the one." The federal courtroom in D.C. was colder than Maya expected. Marble floors, towering ceilings, and no warmth in the polished wood or the stern faces surrounding her. This was not a place for sentiment. This was a place where truth and lies were weighed like currency, and someone walked away in chains. Maya sat beside Dana Kirkland at the prosecution table, her posture calm but upright. Her hands were folded in her lap, tightly clasped around the silver bracelet her father had given her when she turned 18. It was the only piece of him she had left. Across the aisle sat Claudia, still immaculate in her cream suit, her hair swept back, eyes sharp and emotionless, but Maya could see it now what others might miss. The tremor in her fingers when she reached for a glass of water, the way she glanced to the back door, calculating. She wasn't untouchable anymore. Vanessa, seated 3 rows back on the witness list, hadn't looked at her mother since entering the courtroom. She wore simple black, no makeup, hair pulled back, not trying to impress, only to be heard. The judge entered, gavel striking like thunder. "Court is now in session." Dana stood with the force of a woman who had built her career dismantling powerful liars. "Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, "what you'll hear today is not merely a story of greed. It is a story of manipulation, of fraud, and of the deliberate erasure of a daughter's legacy by the very woman entrusted to protect it." She gestured toward Maya. "Maya Williams Bennett is the legal heir of the late Gerald Langston Bennett. She is also a survivor of mental abuse, coercion, attempted disinheritance, and an attempt on her life." There was a murmur among the jurors. Dana didn't pause. "You will see records, hear testimony, watch video, including surveillance footage, personal confession, and statements made under oath by Miss Claudia Bennett and by her daughter, Vanessa Dre." The defense objected immediately to the phrasing, but the judge overruled. Dana nodded toward the gallery. "And now, we'll begin with the testimony of Vanessa Dre." The courtroom shifted. Vanessa stood slowly and walked toward the stand, every step echoing. Maya held her breath. Under oath, Vanessa's voice was clear but brittle, like porcelain held together with resolve. "She told me to lie," Vanessa said. "She said Maya was unfit, that her father had been confused, and that we were saving the company from being destroyed." "She?" Dana asked. "Meaning Claudia Bennett?" "Yes, my mother." Vanessa reached into the folder she had brought and handed over Claudia's ledger. Dana displayed it on the courtroom screens. Payment logs, backroom transactions, forged signatures. "Did you witness any abuse?" "Vanessa paused." "Yes," she whispered. "I saw her slap Maya once, when she questioned the will. She locked her in a room for 2 days." Dana gave her a moment. "And why did you go along with it?" Vanessa's voice cracked. "Because I wanted to matter to her. And because I was a coward." Across the aisle, Claudia's mask didn't falter, but something in her posture shifted. The shoulders straighter, the chin just slightly lower. The beginning of collapse. When it was Maya's turn, the room seemed to tighten. She rose slowly, every eye in the courtroom on her. Adrian gave her a slight nod from behind Dana. Mark, seated in the gallery, offered no expression, only focus. Ellen Sandler, her father's old paralegal, clutched her purse, watching like a witness to history. Maya took the stand. "Under oath," she began. "My name is Maya Williams Bennett. I am the biological daughter of Gerald Bennett, and for the last 2 years, I've been fighting to reclaim the life that was stolen from me." She didn't cry. She didn't need to. She recounted the gaslighting, the isolation, the sedative slipped into her drinks. She spoke of the time Claudia made her believe she had hallucinated an entire conversation with her father. "She wanted me to feel unworthy," Maya said, "unstable, alone." "No," Dana asked her why she hadn't come forward sooner. Because when someone powerful tells the world you're weak, it listens, until it doesn't. Her voice was steady, clear, resonant. The jury watched her, not as a rich woman, not as a character in a drama, but as someone who had been broken and rebuilt. Dana played the recording Claudia's whispered threat to unmake her. The courtroom was silent as the words echoed, "Let the world believe she's crazy. I made that girl. I can unmake her." The silence afterward was deafening. The defense attorney sputtered during cross-examination, trying to frame Maya's marriage to Adrian as strategic. "Didn't you marry Mr. Rhodes shortly after your father passed?" he asked, smug. "Yes," Maya answered. "And some might say it was an opportunistic alliance?" Maya looked directly at the jury. "I'd say it was the only safe place I had left." No further questions. By the end of the day, the prosecution had presented overwhelming evidence. The original will, notarized. The video message from her father. The testimony of Ellen. Financial records of bribes. Medical documents showing tampering. When the judge adjourned, everyone knew. Claudia's defense was sinking. As Maya stepped down from the stand, she passed Claudia, still stone-faced, still composed. But her eyes, just for a second, flinched. Outside the courthouse, the crowd had doubled. Cheers, signs, media vans. One read, "Believe Black women." Another, "Justice for Maya." Adrian reached for her hand. "You did it." "Not yet," Maya said quietly, "but almost." And as the sun began to dip behind the Capitol dome, she felt the weight begin to lift, not fully, not yet, but enough to let her breathe. Tomorrow would bring closing arguments, and the verdict. But tonight, she could finally sleep. It was the longest morning of Maya's life. She sat in the corridor just outside the courtroom, watching the second hand of the wall clock crawl its way through time, as if justice itself moved slower when it mattered most. The closing arguments had ended an hour ago. The jury was deliberating. 12 strangers now held her fate, her father's name, and the meaning of every tear she had shed in their hands. Adrian sat beside her, unusually quiet. He held a thermos of coffee untouched in his lap, his mind as alert as his posture was calm. He'd barely left her side in days. Mark paced nearby, his eyes flicking from door to hallway to Maya and back again. Across the building, Claudia Bennett waited in her private chamber, her high-priced legal team surrounding her, her pearl necklace back in place, and not a trace of regret in her cold, practiced smile. But her world was cracking. The trial had ripped her polished veneer apart. Each accusation had landed like a hammer to glass. Now, all she had left was denial and fear. Vanessa hadn't come today. She'd already said what she needed to say. Suddenly, the buzzer rang overhead. A bailiff appeared. "The jury has reached a verdict." Maya rose slowly. Her legs felt like lead, but her spine was straight. Adrian touched her back gently, and they walked into the courtroom together. Every seat was filled. The air was heavy, thick with tension. Reporters scribbled. Court artists froze mid-stroke. Dana Kirkland sat tall, prepared for the final blow or the first breath of freedom. The judge entered. The jury filed in. The foreperson, a woman in her 60s with iron-gray hair and wise, kind eyes, stood with a folded slip in her hand. In the matter of the Commonwealth versus Claudia Bennett, on the charges of inheritance fraud, obstruction of justice, attempted intimidation of a witness, and unlawful confinement. She took a breath. "We find the defendant guilty on all counts." A collective gasp swept the courtroom. Maya didn't move. She couldn't, not yet. Her eyes were locked on the judge, who now addressed the defense. "Sentencing will be scheduled within the week. Until then, the court orders immediate custody pending further investigation into additional financial crimes." Claudia didn't flinch, but the hand she lifted to adjust her collar trembled barely. But enough. The gavel dropped. Court adjourned. Then came the rush. Dana squeezed Maya's arm and whispered, "We won." Adrian took her hand tightly, and for the first time in months, Maya exhaled, really exhaled. A sob escaped her lips, sharp and sudden, not from sadness but relief so profound it collapsed her composure. She buried her face in Adrian's chest as he wrapped his arms around her, whispering words only she could hear. "You did it. You brought her down." "No." Across the room, Claudia was escorted away in cuffs, still trying to keep her chin high. even as cameras clicked, and reporters shouted her name like a fallen celebrity. Vanessa watched from a side door, tears streaming silently down her face. She did not follow her mother. She walked away. Outside the courthouse, the crowd exploded in applause as Maya appeared on the steps. Dozens of voices shouted her name. Maya, Maya, how do you feel? What does this mean for the Bennett estate? Do you forgive Claudia? Maya posed. She stepped toward the podium Dana had set up. No script. No statement. Just her truth. I came here with nothing but my name and my father's voice on a video, she said, eyes scanning the crowd. And I leave today not just with justice but with proof that the truth can survive even the darkest lies. The applause swelled. Maya continued. This trial wasn't just about money or property. It was about the right to exist, to be believed, to not be erased by the powerful simply because we're inconvenient. She glanced back at the courthouse, then toward Adrian, whose steady gaze anchored her. Claudia Bennett tried to destroy my life. She failed. But let this be a message to anyone who thinks power protects them from consequences. It doesn't. It never will. She stepped back. Dana placed a hand on her shoulder. Reporters pressed forward, but Adrian guided her down the steps and into the waiting car. The moment the door closed, silence wrapped around them like a blanket. For a full minute, neither spoke. Then Maya whispered, "It's over." Adrian turned to her. "It's just beginning." Back at the safe house, she finally allowed herself to breathe, really breathe. The legal documents now bore her name. The court had recognized the true will. Claudia's assets were being liquidated to repay damages. Every news outlet in the country had issued retractions, apologies, and coverage of the historic verdict. But Maya wasn't thinking about headlines. She was thinking about the quiet, the stillness. That night, she walked alone onto the balcony, wrapped in one of Adrian's sweaters. She looked up at the stars. "I did it, Dad," she whispered. "I didn't let them erase me." From behind her, Adrian joined her silently, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You were never the one who needed saving," he said. And for the first time in a long, long time, Maya smiled not from triumph, but from peace. 3 days after the verdict, the mansion on the edge of Chestnut Hill was no longer silent. For years it had stood as a cold monument to wealth-polished marble floors that echoed with nothing but orders and gossip, crystal chandeliers that lit rooms rarely lived in, and oil portraits that stared down with the smug permanence of a family that thought itself untouchable. But today, it was Maya's. She stood at the front door with a key in her hand. The real key. The one her father had left hidden behind a false panel in his study, something only she and Ellen Sandler had known. Not the spare Claudia had ordered duplicated, not the forged ones Adrian's team had intercepted. No, this key meant something. Adrian stood behind her, hands in his coat pockets, watching her with quiet pride. "You ready?" he asked. Maya nodded, but her hand hovered just a second longer before slipping the key into the lock. The door opened with a soft click, and the ghosts flooded in. The foyer was just as she remembered. Same sweeping staircase. Same towering grandfather clock ticking in the corner. Same smell of citrus wood polish and expensive silence. She stepped inside slowly. Each step awakened memory. Her father teaching her how to tie a necktie in front of the mirror. The way Claudia would watch from the top of the stairs, always poised, always calculating. And that last morning when she'd come down hoping for reconciliation, only to be met with betrayal. "I want you to walk through every room," Adrian said gently, "and decide what stays and what leaves." It wasn't just a symbolic exercise. Claudia's belongings had to be cleared legally, and Maya had chosen to do it herself. Not to punish the walls, but to reclaim them. They started in the parlor. The paintings were the first to go portraits of old Bennett relatives who had never once acknowledged Maya's existence. One by one, she took them down, handing them to the moving team outside. In the den, she found the grand piano untouched, dust-covered. She ran her fingers across its keys. The sound was brittle, out of tune. Like her, once, "Leave this," she whispered. "I'll have it restored." In her father's old study, Adrian helped her open a safe built into the floor beneath the rug. Inside were handwritten letters, sealed envelopes, and one small box containing an engraved pocket watch. "To my daughter, Maya, never let them dim your light." Her throat tightened, and she slid the box into her coat pocket. They moved upstairs. Each bedroom had once been a theater for Claudia's cruelty. Vanessa's was empty, cleared out weeks before the trial. A single silver hairpin lay forgotten on the nightstand. Maya picked it up and set it aside. When they reached Claudia's room, Maya hesitated, then entered. It was the same. Meticulous, cruel in its symmetry, 2 armchairs never sat in, matching vases on the windowsill, a row of perfumes untouched since her father's funeral. She opened the top drawer of the dresser. Inside were photographs. Not many, but one caught her breath. Her father, holding baby Maya, both of them smiling. There was a note on the back. "My brightest light. May she never forget who she is." Adrian came up behind her, looking over her shoulder. "She kept this?" he asked. Maya nodded, eyes burning. "She couldn't erase me completely." In the closet, she found files, legal drafts, old letters, a hidden stash of burner phones. Adrian cataloged them all for the legal team. Then, under the floorboards, they found a locked box. Inside, 2 passports, one of them forged under a fake name. Claudia had been preparing to run, but she never got the chance. By the time the sun began to dip, the house was half cleared. Maya stood on the back patio, looking out over the sprawling lawn. This was where her father used to read the paper every morning, where she had once brought him coffee, barefoot and sleepy-eyed at 15, where Claudia had told her, at 19, that she'd never be enough. Adrian stepped beside her. "You could sell this place," he offered gently. "You don't owe it anything." Maya looked up at the sky. "No, I don't owe the house, but I owe myself the chance to make it mine." He smiled. "Then we'll rebuild." They returned inside. In the dining room, Maya sat at the long mahogany table, the one where she'd been humiliated more times than she could count. Claudia had used this room like a courtroom, and Maya had always been the defendant. But now she sat at the head. Adrian placed a small bouquet in the center of the table, daisies and lilies. "Not for show, but for healing." Mark entered with a nod. "Legal transfer is complete. The house is officially registered under your name, Maya. Claudia's liens have been nullified." She nodded, expression unreadable. "Let's finish this," she said. In the library, Maya found the last of her father's journals. She placed them carefully on the new shelf she'd had built at eye level, right beside framed photos of her graduation, her wedding with Adrian, and one candid shot of her and her father laughing in the kitchen. It was the first room that felt like hers. As evening set in, the fireplace in the library glowed with soft warmth. Maya curled up on the leather sofa with Adrian beside her. She held her father's pocket watch in her hand, its ticking slow, steady, like her heart. "We'll bring life back to this place," Adrian said quietly. "No," Maya corrected, smiling faintly. "We'll bring truth back to it." She looked around, breathing deeply. "I don't just want to live again," she said. "I want to thrive." Ugh. And for the first time, the mansion felt less like a cage, and more like home. A month after Claudia's conviction, spring came early to Philadelphia. The air was crisp, but the sunlight was warmer, clearer, and for the first time in years, the Bennett mansion echoed not with silence but with laughter, voices, the clinking of glasses, and the low hum of jazz drifting through the reopened parlor. Maya stood at the base of the grand staircase, watching as people filtered in: lawyers, family, friends, neighbors from her father's old community, and several quiet strangers who had once worked behind the scenes but had come forward during the trial. It was her idea to host the gathering, not a gala, not a press event, but a private homecoming of sorts. Not for celebration, but for reconnection. She wore a deep blue dress, modest, elegant, her curls pulled into a soft bun. Around her wrist was the same silver bracelet her father had given her. Adrian stood a few feet away, smiling at her over his glass of sparkling cider. "You've filled this house with good people," he said as he joined her side. Maya gave him a look. "You say that like it's easy." "I say it like it's you." She smiled, touched by his quiet confidence in her. "I wanted people who remember my father, not just the businessman, but the man who stayed up late to fix old clocks, who left notes in his employees' lunch bags." "He would have been proud of this," Adrian said, glancing around at the small crowd of faces, some teary-eyed, some laughing at old stories. The formal living room had been transformed. Gone were the cold marble busts and severe portraits. In their place were framed photos of Gerald Bennett with Maya on a fishing boat, in his old study, at her high school graduation. Soft jazz hummed from the restored record player in the corner. Ellen Sandler approached, a paper plate in one hand, a small box in the other. Her eyes were misty but bright. "Maya," she said, "I found something in the archive room. I thought you'd want it." She handed her the box. Inside was a stack of index cards recipes. Gerald's handwriting, neat and slightly crooked, filled each one. Apple pie, spiced gumbo, his special tomato bisque. Maya choked on a laugh. He always said he was going to open a diner when he retired. Ellen nodded. He had the name picked out, too. Langston's Table. Said it would serve truth, food, and warmth. Adrian leaned in. He'd have had my business on day one. They shared a soft laugh, and Ellen placed a hand on Maya's arm. "You've turned this place back into a home." As Ellen moved on, Maya's eyes found Vanessa near the fireplace. It was the first time she'd seen her since the trial. Vanessa wore simple gray slacks and a loose cardigan, nothing like the polished outfits she once wore in Claudia's shadow. Her hair was shorter, now cut to her shoulders, no longer styled to perfection. They made eye contact. Maya hesitated, then walked toward her. They stood for a moment in silence. "I didn't think I'd be welcome," Vanessa said softly. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Maya replied. "I owed it to you." Maya studied her, really studied her, and for the first time, saw someone not bound by Claudia's gravity. Someone unraveling, yes, but also rebuilding. "I'm not here to forgive everything," Maya said, her voice calm. "But I recognize what you did, took courage, and I believe people can grow." Vanessa nodded, visibly relieved. "I've started therapy. I've been volunteering too. A women's shelter in South Street. I thought, maybe that's a place to start making amends." Maya gave a slow, approving nod. "Start with yourself. That's where I did." Vanessa looked like she might cry. Instead, she gave a small, grateful smile. "Thank you for this." As Maya turned away, Adrian was waiting, leaning against the archway. "You didn't have to invite her." "I know," Maya replied. "But healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over poison." The evening continued with warmth and quiet conversation. At one point, Dana Kirkland stood and tapped her glass. "May I?" she asked the room. Heads turned, conversations stilled. Dana lifted her glass. "We're not here tonight to celebrate a verdict. We're here because the truth won. And the person who held that truth, through beatings, threats, gaslighting, and character assassination, never let go of it." She turned to Maya. "You reminded this city and this country that justice isn't about money or status. It's about courage. It's about standing up when the ground beneath you has vanished. And today, we stand on solid ground again. Because of you." The room erupted in applause. Maya's face flushed, but she didn't shy away. She raised her glass back. "To truth," she said, "to those who guard it, and to those who speak it even when their voice shakes." Later that night, as the last guests filtered out and the house fell quiet, Maya returned to her father's study. She lit the fireplace, sat at his desk, and opened the journal she hadn't touched in months. She turned to a blank page. Wrote, "March 12 reclaimed. House is full again. Hearts healing. Ghosts forgiven but not forgotten." She stared at the page for a long while before adding the last line. "This story began with silence. It ends with a voice mine." She closed the book and turned off the light. The house no longer felt haunted. It felt alive. 6 months later, the Bennett estate looked nothing like the fortress Maya had once escaped. The walls had been repainted in soft earth tones. The garden, long neglected, now bloomed with wildflowers and herbs her father used to grow. The cold grandeur was gone, replaced with warmth, memory, and movement. And today, the house was open again. Not for a party, not for press, but for purpose. Maya stood on the front steps in a simple cream blouse and jeans, watching as vans pulled into the driveway. From them stepped young women, some with suitcases, some with nothing at all. A few clutched garbage bags, one held a baby. They came alone, in pairs, or in silence, guided gently by volunteers. All of them survivors. All of them had nowhere else to go. The Bennett estate was now Langston House, a transitional home and resource center for women escaping emotional abuse and coercive control. Maya didn't want her father's legacy to be built on money or old company shares. She wanted it to live through safety, through dignity, through second chances. Adrian emerged from the side garden, his sleeves rolled up, a smudge of soil on his wrist. He'd spent the morning helping plant a new peach tree by the back fence, the same kind Maya's father had once climbed as a boy. He handed her a bottle of water. "They're here. I see them," Maya said quietly, her throat tightening with emotion. "You okay?" She looked at him, not just the man who helped save her, but the one who never tried to fix her, just listened. Stayed. "Yeah," she said softly. "I think I am." Inside, the foyer had been transformed. Where once stood cold marble and antique vases now stood soft benches, shelves lined with books on healing and trauma recovery, and a wall of framed affirmations handwritten by the first 6 women who had lived there during the pilot phase. One read, "They told me I was too broken to belong, but now I belong to myself." Another, "Justice didn't give me back what I lost. It gave me what I deserved." A third, "Silence is no longer my home." That one, Maya had written. Dana Kirkland arrived in the late afternoon, her hair down, wearing sneakers instead of courtroom heels. She hugged Maya tightly. "You did it," she said. "No," Maya replied. "We did it." Mark arrived next, shaking hands with the volunteers, then surprising everyone by gently lifting a box of donated diapers onto his shoulder and heading toward the supply closet without a word. He'd become the unlikely big brother of Langston House, quiet, gruff, loyal. Even Vanessa had contributed, anonymously. A large donation had come in under a foundation name. Maya hadn't mentioned it. Some reparations don't need applause. As the sun began to fall, Maya gathered everyone in the central living room. The couches were mismatched, the coffee tables full of chipped mugs and notebooks. It was perfect. She stood in front of the fireplace, where a new plaque had been mounted. "Langston House, a place for voices." She spoke without notes. "I was once told that my voice didn't matter, that my pain wasn't valid, that power was louder than truth." She scanned the room, young faces, old wounds. But power crumbles, and truth, it endures, even when whispered. She looked at them not as a founder, not as a former heiress, but as one of them. "I don't have all the answers, but I have a key. And if this house can unlock even one story that was buried, one future that was feared, then it's done what it was built for." "Vass," someone sniffled in the corner. A young woman with a scar on her wrist clutched her baby closer. Maya stepped down from the hearth and joined the circle. She didn't finish with a speech. She didn't need to. That night, she and Adrian sat on the back porch, watching the new peach tree sway in the breeze. "I've been thinking," Adrian said gently. "Your dad's journal, that line he always wrote when he finished a project." Maya smiled. "Good hands build honest things." He nodded. "That's what this is." They sat in silence for a while. Then Adrian asked, "Do you think you'll ever tell your full story? Like, write it?" Maya looked out at the dark sky, filled with stars. Her voice was calm, resolute. "Not someday," she said. "Soon." He raised an eyebrow. "I started," she continued. "A memoir, or maybe a guide, or maybe just a love letter to every girl who thought she had to shrink to survive." He kissed the back of her hand. "I'd read every page." "No, I'm not writing it for you," she teased. "Good," he grinned. "That means it'll be true." Inside, the lights of Langston House glowed gently in every window. Laughter echoed from the kitchen. Dishes clinked. Life messy, joyful, loud life filled every corner. Maya leaned her head on Adrian's shoulder and whispered, "This isn't the end." "No," he agreed. "It's the beginning." "No." And somewhere, in the quiet of a rebuilt home, a voice that had once been silenced rose again, steady, strong, and forever her own. This story is a powerful reminder that truth, no matter how deeply buried, can rise again with courage. Maya's journey teaches us that even in the face of betrayal, abuse, and systemic injustice, holding on to one's voice is an act of survival and of defiance. Justice may take time, and healing may leave scars, but when we choose integrity over silence, and compassion over vengeance, we reclaim more than our names, we reclaim our worth. Maya didn't just fight for an inheritance. She fought for every soul who's been told they don't belong. And in the end, She showed us all that home isn't where you're born, it's where you're finally heard.